What's up, everybody? Jesse Carstairs here. I want to thank you for tuning in, and I got to apologize for the audio. The recording you're about to listen to is from my Skool community, High Value Life. Again, I'm not sure why the audio turned out this way, but there's a lot of gold nuggets. Thank you for sticking with it. Listen all the way through. Join my Skool community.
So, I want to go over the power of self discipline today. Self discipline defines a man. Because if you think about it, a man without self discipline is controlled by his emotions, his impulses, and the world around him. And if he lacks direction and purpose, without it, he's weak physically, weak mentally, weak emotionally, and spiritually. A good guy named Jocko Willink has a quote that I use often in my house, which is discipline equals freedom. And we have to understand that self-discipline is not about restriction. It's about liberation. A man who disciplines his body, mind, and actions gains control over his life. I often think of self-discipline as if I take take care of my body now, I'll have the freedom to not be in chronic disease later on in my life. Discipline means doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. So for an example, if you don't want to wake up at 5 a.m., do it anyways. Don't feel like going to the gym, do it anyways. If you don't feel like leading your family with patience, lead them anyways. I mean, the word self-discipline comes from the very word self. It is a choice that we have to make day in and day out, and the rent is due every single day. I want to go into strength over comfort and why men must seek challenges. Because most men today have been conditioned to seek comfort, yet growth happens through challenge. Example, anyone who goes to the gym, you are literally tearing apart your muscle fibers, and through that trauma, they grow back stronger. And strong men don't chase an easy path. We look for hardship because a strong man knows that it's going to make him better. For the men who've been on this call, I constantly talk about strength, courage, mastery, and honor. And none of these are developed through comfort. So an example would be, instead of staying at a job you hate because it's secure, take the risk and build something better. Instead of making excuses for your weight, train like a warrior. A video that I made recently, instead of allowing your wife to be the person who you drop all your complaints into the world, you need to change your mindset and your emotional control. And again, we want to support everything with biblical verses. If we look at James 1:2, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Again, anything that we're going through is going to make us stronger, and comfort does not lead to any strength. So self-discipline and leadership is being the rock for your family. As the head of the household, being the rock for your family, this is for you. You are the one who is creating the strong foundation, just as God should be the foundation and the rock for man. So a man's leadership is only as strong as his discipline. If you're inconsistent, your wife and your children will feel your inconsistency. A man must lead by example. If you lack discipline, your children will follow that pattern. 100%. Statistically, if you are not disciplined in your marriage, your health, your wealth, any aspect, statistically your children will lead the exact same life. One of the ones that I hammer home constantly is Ephesians 5:23, which is for husbands, For the husband is the head of the household, the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. So if you come home every night tired and complaining, your family will see you as weak instead of coming home with like a presence and strength, even if you're exhausted. Like, we must come home with the mindset of being present and demonstrating strength, regardless. The time we come home is the time that we actually are punching in the clock. And then that we are to disciple our family and our children. We have to figure out the power of routine and the power of having structure in our life, because your habits will define you. We are all defined by whatever habits we choose to do, even if it's social media. You know, if we have the habit of posting, we will see results. If we have the habit of doing like what many of us have probably done, posted, not posted, no results. Same with the gym. We can't go to the gym once and expect to be jacked. We can't eat really good one day or 1 week and expect to have abs. So if we are using daily practices to ensure that we have good routine and structure, we will reap the benefits. Marcus Aurelius has a good line that says, at dawn, when you may have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. So we don't need necessarily motivation every day. That is something that you're going to rely on, that motivation, and it'll almost be your crutch, because the day you don't have motivation is the day you're not going to do something. We need self-discipline. Anybody have practical routines that they've had to instill to ensure that they became disciplined in some facet of their life? Like anyone on this call, where was there a place in your life where you were not disciplined, that you were lacking, that you had to instill practical routines?
Reading. I read every morning now for like an hour.
Yeah.
My new thing.
Anyone else?
I stopped drinking, and I remember at first, because it was like a habit of, you like come home and drink a glass of wine. I would drink tea instead to like replace that. Mm-hmm. And so that became my like new habit. And then also like watching TV. I used to watch TV a lot, and now I don't. So I listen to podcasts instead.
And for me, I would say environment. I had to change my environment, because not everything that is good to you is good for you, even if people, even if they're family. Mm-hmm. So I had to be able to mentally rewire my brain and put myself into a better environment and get exposed to better things in life. So that'll be my answer, would be an environmental shift.
So let's go over some practical routines. Very practical, easy is wake up early. Have no excuses to not wake up early. Train our body in some sort of strength discipline. Get your body moving. Set your day's priorities the night before. Read scripture. Build mental toughness through study. We can visit Proverbs 6:6. Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer, or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. We can reap the rewards of all of our practical routines that we instill. And we have to have essentially a warrior mindset in the culture that we live in today, because we live in a culture of comfort. So we have to train our discipline like it's a muscle, because if we don't train discipline, it will weaken. If we don't sharpen it daily, it will break. So we need to sharpen it daily so it becomes unbreakable. And we can't be expected to be motivated every day. Like I said, motivation is unreliable, but discipline can be our best friend. More examples. If you don't want to pray, pray anyways. Make it part of your routine. For example, I will wake up at 4 a.m. The first thing I do is eat. Then I put my boots and jacket on and I go do 3 miles with my dog in the dark. And I pray the second I get out under the stars. It's just, I am praying. Really, actually, I get out of the neighborhood. I'm more into the, like, you could say the wilderness. And I will pray until I feel that my prayers are done, that I'm done. So if it's 45 to 50 minutes that I'm out there, I won't stop praying, because prayer is building rapport with God, until I feel that it is sufficed. And then I also will pray every night before I go to bed. And it's part of my routine. It's part of my sleep routine at night, and it's part of my morning routine. There's just things that I just do. Another example, like, it doesn't matter how tired we are, and we don't feel like showing love for our wife. It's like, as a man in our responsibility, we must show her love anyways, regardless of how tired we are. Will she understand and can tell we are tired? But yes, but we have to push through and break through that. If we're not liking how work is going, we're exhausted, we don't want to put in the extra effort. We have to figure out how to have that mindset and harden our mind in the form of discipline to just do it anyways. More biblical support is 2 Timothy 1:7. For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. So if we think about that, for the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid. So how do we go the extra mile? Because we're not timid, but it gives us power, all mixed with love and self-discipline. Hearing these words is absolutely huge, because it really shows us that our abilities are endless. We have this power, this love, and the self-discipline, and we can, through discipleship, through being disciplined, we're able to spread that to others, whether it be our family, our children, the people who surround us. You will make an impact on those around you due to your discipline. We've all heard that you're the product of the 5 closest people. If you're the most disciplined person, statistically, those around you will either leave or they'll become more disciplined. Because we lead through example if we want to change any of those. There's that Chinese proverb that said the man set out to change the world. Couldn't change the world, so he thought he would set out to change his country. Couldn't change his country, went to his state, then his city, then his family, and on his deathbed, he realized all he needed to do was start with himself. And then if he started with himself, it would have spread to his family, his community, his city, his state, and therefore his country. Jordan Peterson talks about a great study where people who just improved their life 10%, just 10%, the people who lived in their house by default improved their life by 3. So we got to think of how big of an impact that truly has. And this same study showed that you could literally reverse poverty in the world if everyone just focused on improving their life by 10%. So if we are disciplined in all of our actions, the numbers don't lie, that our everything else in our life will improve. What is it? High tides raise all boats. We have to think of that as we're disciplined, and every other aspect in our life will start to rise by default. So I want to challenge everybody in this to take some sort of action in like fitness, emotional discipline, leadership, finances, faith, and come up with a daily task for yourself in that area. So for an example, if like fitness, hitting the gym or working out even at home with a kettlebell, if that is your weakness, then how do you wake up an hour earlier, train every day this week no matter what, and then just post it in the Skool community? And that's just an example. I mean, fitness is an easy example to go to. But what is one thing every one of us can improve on in our discipline? Like, we're at one area where we're lacking. Okay, diving into the Bible.
I would say accountability and emotional intelligence.
Holding yourself accountable?
Yes. Instead of making up excuses, accepting where I'm at right now and taking ownership of it. And then having that emotional intelligence to know how I think affects everybody else around me and who's in association with me. So if I'm feeling upset, keep it to myself. Don't breach that energy off to someone else and have it basically spread like wildfire.
Well, yeah, and so I got two comments on that. One, I definitely agree to a certain aspect. If you're, what was the energy that you were describing? If you feel,
Oh, I just gave an example of like if I'm upset. 'Cause I
okay,
was
yeah, the
taking
upset.
notes and
Yeah, so if we're upset, it's like, what's the level where we share that with some of the people closest to us, or like a wife? Like, are we putting those burdens on our wife? Being that this call is about manhood. So it's like, do we want to be putting those burdens on her? But then also it's like, do we have a community of men where we can talk about these things and figure out how we overcome them together? Because I think both is very important. And it's another reason why I did the Skool community, because the lone wolf thing doesn't work. So you're going to need a place where when you're going through some battles and you need to verbalize what those battles are, you are with like-minded men who therefore you can bounce that off one another, and he might have overcome something similar. Does that make sense?
oh, it makes perfect sense. That way you don't carry that energy back into your household and affect your family. And I guess an example would be, for instance, my dad was a lawyer, so if he had a bad court case, he would come home upset and take it out on my mom. And then that energy and synergy would go through the household. It's like, leave that stuff there or go to a community where you can talk to people who can be able to help you. So that way you don't carry that energy, what the judge did or what other people did to you, home with you.
So true, because again, it's the father has shitty energy, the family's going to have shitty energy.
100%.
And it's contagious. And then and the other point that you said, you're like, if I'm upset and then I unload that on the people around me, we have to realize, where's the line of us being Eeyore? Because in Winnie the Pooh, Eeyore, he's just sad the entire time. And like, nobody wants to be around Eeyore. And and I don't say no one wants to be around Eeyore, because people will say, well, you don't know how to handle someone else's emotions. And it's like, well, Eeyore's in a place where he never changes his attitude. So therefore, we don't want to be around that Eeyore, but it's like, how do we actually just have a conversation and get into a good place? Because that energy does spread. You know, how are we mentally and emotionally in control that we aren't Eeyore 24/7? Because we have the discipline and understanding what it is that gets us over that hump of us feeling upset about things. And then are we upset about something that's completely out of our control? Because that's also emotional immaturity. It's for example, it's like, when people lose their shit over who's elected, at the end of the day, if every single person looks back, was any of us directly impacted by who was elected? I would say 99.9% of all people, if they're being genuinely honest, would say no. They couldn't fucking tell who was the president and how it impacted their life. But we want to be emotionally immature and allow those things to impact us. If we don't even have the self-discipline to be aware of those things, life can be tough. And nobody wants to be around the person who can't control their emotions in regards to something they have zero control over.
Yeah, because you're basically a ticking time bomb to your family.
Yeah, and then it's okay, that goes away, and let's just pretend the election thing that triggered you is over. But then you see something on the news that happened 4 states away, and you let that ruffle your feathers. And then it's like, well, what else? You get angry at a billboard. You get angry at, something in some other foreign country. You're leaving the door open for you're really opening the floodgates for everything else to dictate how you live your life when you can't control those things.
Yeah, because you're basically just responding to all external forces and just soaking up the negatives, and then eventually you just become the negative. Then you carry that back in with you to your main, source, which is your household.
Yeah, and
So how do you become in service to be able to basically rechannel your energy as a man, so your wife isn't affected by it or infected from it? Instead, you can be able to, I guess, give her better synergy despite what is going on in the world.
Yeah, and what are the things that we can get upset about that we, can control? It's like we can control our finances. We look into our bank account and we're like, man, that sucks. I can do better. Because we got to reframe the way we look at things. It's part of having a disciplined mindset. We don't look at like, oh, poor me, I have a low bank account. It's like, okay, here's the bottom. And I know if I look at this every day and continue to stride forward towards my goals, I can greatly improve this. I can be adding zeros to that bank account. And reframing how we look at things is part of having that disciplined mindset. It's like, do we want to be the negative Nelly? Do we want to be Eeyore? Or do we want to look at things and reframe them? Because it doesn't matter what it is. We can always reframe everything into a positive light. Yeah, it's, again, Jocko Willink, he has the saying of, you didn't get the job promotion, good. It gives you time to sharpen your tools that you need to get the promotion next time. It's like, you didn't get funding for your business, good. It allows you time to sharpen your skills for presenting. It allows you time to fine tune that business plan. Like, we just have to reframe how we look at anything that might be perceived as negative.
Did you throw that in there just because I jumped on?
As soon as I saw you, yeah.
That was good. I already know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we gotta, for quick context for you guys, Matt, he's been raising millions of dollars for a medical device company. And sometimes it doesn't happen on your timeline. But it's like, we have to think of not poor us, because we're talking about having a disciplined mindset and how we cultivate a disciplined mindset. We have to think of like, how do we reframe this thought process? How do we reframe how we're looking at it, and what is the benefit of it? And we're talking about not allowing things we have zero control over, impact us emotionally, impact our emotional immaturity. It's like we want to be of sound mind to where anything that's not in our control, how do we look at it in a positive light? Because it's not in our control. So we can't be letting something that's not in control affect us.
Hey guys, really quick, I just wanted to take a second and thank you for listening. I appreciate you being here, and I just want to let you know that I have zero plans to ever run ads on this podcast. No interruptions, no distractions, just straight value for you. Now, if you're getting something out of this, the best way to support me is simple. Tell 2 friends about the podcast and leave a review. It helps me more than you know. And if you're looking for something even deeper, join my Skool community at Skool, SKOOL.com/ultimate husband, or just search High Value Life. It's for both men and women who want to level up in every area: marriage, leadership, mindset, everything. I hope to see you there.
Absolutely.
What other questions, Tyler or Gavin, you have?
Questions?
Yeah. Feedback questions.
I don't have any questions for you on that one. I love Jocko. I love that book. I've read it, so it's a good one.
Yeah, and Tyler, he's talking about the book Extreme Ownership.
Okay,
Well,
drop the link in the chat.
He also has a book, Discipline Equals Freedom, too.
Oh yeah, the Discipline Equals Freedom. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got that one, too.
Yeah, because one thing that I come to learn is that it's really easy to make up excuses, or even when the negatives come, to use that as the main reason as to why you're not where you want to be, instead of just taking that accountability and using self-discipline to reach freedom. Because it's possible.
Yeah. It's possible for every single one of us.
100%.
We have to figure out where we're lacking discipline in any one of our aspects of life, and we only get one chance on here. We're on this big floating rock that, if I'm being honest, gives no fucks about any one of us. It's been around a long time. There's a lot of people. When we think about the space that's out there,
Less than 100 years on Earth.
how do we truly make an impact, or are we just here floating? Like, even from a biblical aspect, we are called, we're all men of faith on here. We're called to be disciples. So how do we make the greatest impact? Is it through being a superstar athlete and you have a platform? Is it through God giving you a skill that you're able to cultivate this giant business and you can give back to as many people as you can in the name of the Lord because he blessed you? Or are you like Paul? You're just, traveling the world, talking to people one by one with a message, and didn't even have a family? I mean, every single one of us has the ability to cultivate a life that is meaningful, and whether we're spreading the gospel, but then on top of that, what is the avenue that we're using? Because we do live in a worldly world where you kind of need dollars to survive, right? I mean, it's kind of up there with oxygen where we live, as far as survival goes. So what is it that we're doing? And how are we disciplining ourselves so that we can reach any of those goals that we want? Because we live in America, everything is attainable here. And then we put God at the helm.
I'd add to that. The discipline often comes in the area that you want to do it in the least.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
You oftentimes I would argue that discipline and obedience are two hands on the same. Like, if we are vessels and we are the body, we think about our actual physical body, like what we take hold of with our hands. This is maybe a stupid ass metaphor.
I think he lost service, but
Oh, damn.
The obedience and the discipline, two hands on the same wheel. So if we are obedient to God because He gave us these skills.
Sorry, I don't know what the hell just happened there. It just went blank.
No, you're good.
I was saying, this may be a stupid ass metaphor, but I think about like obedience being a left hand and discipline, or I guess the fruit of discipline would be obedience. Those two things, you can't really have one without the other, and I do think they're different. And one of the things I've had to come to real hard terms with over the last year was, is my lack of financial fruit what I'm trying to do tied to my disobedience or my lack of discipline? And the answer I get every time, even though I pray about it, I already know the answer is yeah. If you're fucking up one way or another, God's not going to reward somebody who's not taking His word seriously. And when I actually put the effort in to administer self-discipline as much as I discipline my kids for not doing whatever they want to do, I think, how many times has God let me off the hook? Or maybe He hasn't. Maybe the whole time He's like, nope, you're just going to kick this can further down the road till you learn this lesson. And I think that I know I have seen this more in the last year than my whole life before. When I stay committed to self-discipline, fruit comes. It may not be the next day. It may not be the next week. Could even be months down the road, but eventually I see, oh shit, that paid off. Like, here's this really good shit happening now because I stayed committed to it. So, it's the areas that are uncomfortable, the most uncomfortable. So that may be a total duplication of what you guys talked about earlier. Sorry, I had a call I had to be on.
No, you're good. There's some of the verses that we've gone over kind of parallel what you're talking about, because we went over 2 Timothy 1:7. For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. In Proverbs 6:6, it says, go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. I mean,
And then I also want to add something in there as well, because I was experiencing the same thing, Matt. And one thing that really opened up this new lens for me to go through my experiences is just knowing that everything that happens to you, it's not only just God, but it's Satan too.
For sure.
God is the devil. So, you can get a crazy blessing. And I learned even like all money's not good money. All things that happen to you that get you into a powerful position, it's also God testing you to know how to respond, to always lean on Him at all times. So I can only just imagine, because that stress is real. And whenever, you're like praying to God and you don't understand why things is happening, it's just knowing that it's also like a two-way street, like the devil's always trying to get to God's children. So, he may bless you just so you can be able to keep that relationship with God and not get too, stared away.
For sure.
Yeah, and the enemy will try and seek his own validation. If we are not obedient and disciplined, he gives someone who's obedient and disciplined a little bit of money and can see them go right off the deep end because they have no discipline and obedience.
He knows exactly what your weak spots are.
Yeah.
He knows you just as well as your Heavenly Father. I argue because He hears the words that come out of your mouth just as much. He can't impact you, but He knows where He's going to hit you. I know where the devil was at my marriage from the time I was 14 years old. Yeah, I mean, there's the spiritual warfare, I think I'm more aware now than I ever have been in my whole life. And honestly, I like to reduce every single thing, literally every single thing in life. I like to reduce it down to one of two things. Is this from the devil or is this from God? And it's really easy to make the right decision when you can just focus it on only those two lenses. When I do that, I almost always get it right. Almost always get it right. And so I think the more awareness we can all constantly be reminding each other of, man, we all got nothing to gain, nothing but things to gain from understanding that the war is waging against us, whether we're ready for it or not. It's coming.
Yeah, and then also knowing that Satan cannot hear your thoughts. He only hears the words that comes out of your mouth.
Yep.
So he can't read your mind. So the power of the tongue is everything as we're going through this warfare, because everybody is experiencing it.
For sure.
Yeah, the power of the tongue is very real. You speak something, it will come to existence, whether it's negative or positive. You know, negative self-talk, you'll talk yourself right into hell on earth. Hell on earth is very real. You know, it's why in previous things I've talked about, even what women speak about their husbands, they call them stupid, they call them a fool, they don't believe in them. That will come into reality. And same with men, our self-talk. How are we talking about ourselves? It goes into our discipline and obedience. And then we need to act out those things. We say we're going to take care of our fitness, our health. We're going to be disciplined in the way that we come home tired from work and still love on our wife and still love our children. Like, we need to be making sure that we're doing those things. Because we all know what the Bible says about hypocrisy.
Absolutely.
Dude, I'm glad you were able to jump on, Matt.
Yeah, dude, I would have been here earlier, but I got off a call I finally got an answer I'm looking for the past 2.5 months. And so, you know, yeah, I would have loved to have been here earlier, but I had.
You're good.
You know how it goes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anybody have anything else they want to add to this? What's one thing you guys are going to be work on discipline-wise this week? I know mine, and I'll share that at the end.
So I'm starting a whole fasting cycle this week.
Okay.
Ashley obviously just delivered yesterday, so she's in the mode to get her body back, and that's a joint process. So through the physical denial of not eating the complete and total shit that I've been eating over the past 2 months, I'm really focusing on the spiritual discipline more so than anything, about seeking God's counsel on everything that comes into my life before every call, praying for wisdom, not thinking, oh, I got this, I can do what I want, I can make decisions, I got that latitude, and I don't. So tying the physical to the spiritual is, that's my goal for the week or months upcoming.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to add on that. So, you know, some lessons for us men is like seeking God to lead us to wisdom and success. Like, David's victories weren't because of his strength, but because he depended on God's direction. Acting without God leads to failure. So when David ignored God's guidance, it led to pain, loss, and chaos in his life and his family. True leadership begins with humility before God, as Husbands, fathers, and leaders, our success depends on how much we rely on God's wisdom, not our own. So before we make moves, and this is something that I'm working on, and I do it a little, I don't do it enough. Before we make a move, pray. Before we react, seek Him. And before we try to lead, listen to Him.
That's exactly what I'm going to be working on, is listening to the voice of God. And, he gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So it's just to shut up and listen, because I always want to, and I don't know if you guys are like this, but you want to control the situations. You feel like you can do it. And I'm learning that I am really powerless to this thing called life, and God is in control of everything. And I always want to take control out of these situations that may arise, whether it's good or bad. And I wanted to be the basically the slayer to the conflict. And now I'm just learning to just listen to God and let Him deal with it, even when it's like a bad deal. Because I just got into like real estate, I just got into entrepreneurship, and it's like I always wanted to handle it, whenever problems happen, and I'm always like a solutioner. And I'm just learning now to just let God deal with it and listen more before you speak. So that's what I'm going to be working on. It's just basically just my connection to God and just listening to Him more and getting that wisdom first from Him, then making my next move. Because when I just respond based off of emotion, it's not always the safest route, especially in business.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm going to work on being more disciplined in my Bible every day and reaching out to God before I try to lead and through all the aspects. And I feel like I talk to Him a lot, but I know that I can continue to level that up.
Money.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys hopping on.
Yeah.
I
Thanks for
appreciate
putting
being
it on,
here.
bro.
It's a
Yeah,
blessing.
for sure.
And we'll do more, and you guys might see each other more. Yeah.
Right on, Taylor. Nice to meet you, Seth.
Nice to meet you too, Matt.
All
All
right,
right,
guys.
Jesse. Have a great day.
Hey, you
Talk
too.
All right, guys. Blessings.
See ya.